Good morning. I'd like to give you a market introduction to where we see the LED market in 2021 and beyond. This is the professional and commercial LED section of the market. And in particular, I'm going to focus on those parts of the market that use the narrow pixel pitch products, the professional display market. Now, what are the trends and prospects for 2021? Well, according to the TrendForce survey and the analysis, the world economy is deteriorating. It has been affected badly by COVID-19. It will recover, but it's probably going to mainly recover in the second half of 2021 and very strongly in 2022, 2023, 2024. So we're seeing lots of growth coming, but where's that going to come? Well, many governments have already announced plans for infrastructure projects to stimulate the economy, get unemployment, stabilize the prosperity of the country. So these have been announced, and typically with these type of projects, you will see a lot of things like control rooms demand. You will see new technology being invested in. So we're seeing things like corporate meeting rooms, being regenerated because effectively, they need to be redesigned for holding different numbers of people, more spaces in those rooms. We're seeing a lot of event spaces being developed. We're also seeing opportunities in cinemas and in family theaters as people start to look at different ways to spend their money. And we're seeing new areas in immersive entertainment coming along. So thanks to this sort of various fiscal stimulus, we're going to see some of these areas really have a strong focus in the market development in the coming months and years. So let's look at some of those particular markets one by one. And the first one I wanted to focus on is the control room market. Now, this is a very large market, but it's actually quite diverse. In China, there's a lot of the smart city business is using control rooms as command centers, surveillance centers, but things are much broader than that. Power distribution, electricity, gas, pipelines, water distribution, traffic and surveillance, emergency services, security, and various types. Oil and gas uses cybersecurity for protection of oil rigs and things like this. Cybersecurity, it's now a big investment in the banks, the credit card companies. Crisis control, governments, corporations, when they have a control center to monitor a crisis. Military, of course. Air traffic control is another area, and railway control. But these are the traditional markets of control rooms. But there's even more opportunities. Motorsport uses enormous amounts of command and control centers. They call them mission control. So in Formula One, every Formula One team has a mission control center at their headquarters, and they are effectively a command and control center. Sports stadiums use command and control centers. Then you have NOCs, network operating systems, network operating centers to monitor reliability of products and look for where to send service personnel. Television studios use broadcast control rooms, and then various corporations have their own control centers. So this is a very broad, a very diverse market. And LED has begun to take a foothold in this market, and it is the future. So one of the things that define a control room is typically its scale. These are very large displays. They have lots of different types of content from different signal sources, different types of data content, often sensor information that's coming through there. It could be intelligent information that's got to be modified and adapted to fit on the screen. And you've got both analog and digital sources, often very many numbers of cameras. These go through various distribution systems and then onto our send cards and distributed through the wall. And there'll be one of the key features of a control room is lots of different windows with all of that different content in. Sometimes you'll have one huge screen. Other times you'll have that huge screen, but also auxiliary screens, which may be in the same room. They may be in other rooms. Sometimes it may be a monitoring room, whether it's as an overview room. So these are very complex systems, but they're very large systems and very valuable. So as we want to get this market has been very strong in China and in the rest of the world is now beginning to look at LED and position LED for this business, particularly narrow pixel pitch LED in the very small pixel pitches. So if you look at where that market has been, as far as LED goes, it's continuing to move down in pixel pitch. In 2019, the biggest sector was in the 1.2 to 1.6 millimeter pixel pitch. That was the sweet spot. But as pricing declines in the sub 1 millimeter or sub 1.1 millimeter sector, we've seen growth in that. So in 2020, we saw significant growth in the smaller than 1 millimeter market. So that is now the largest market in terms of pixel pitch. So one of the key reasons for demand in the control room market for LED is there is a requirement that the image is not interrupted by bezels. So in both tiled LCD and video walls, there are seams, there are bezels, and the market does not likely, if they put up with them, but now there's an alternative. LED displays can provide an optimized solution without bezels and with also very long lifetimes, very good uniformity, and in reality, a much better return on investment over the long period, because the lifetime of the LED wall will be considerably longer than that of either the projection cubes or the LCD video walls. So the trend is moving towards less than 1 millimeter in control rooms for LED. And we're seeing a very large growth. The TrendForce analysis predicts $199 million market with a 42% year-on-year growth in this business. So it's a business you want to find out about, you want to get involved in. But it's not just new installations. There are a lot of retrofits. The biggest sector of this market is dual projection cubes, DLP, rear projection cubes. They were originally lamp-based, but in sort of the last decade, most of those lamps have been replaced by LED cubes. So now they use LED rear projection cubes, but they are now being phased out, and some will be replaced by laser RGB projection. Others will be replaced by LED. And LED has the momentum at the moment, and we believe LED will become the dominant technology. There are 161,000 units to be retrofitted after 2023. So that is a lot of business there, a great deal of business. So look at it. It's a market that we need to develop in every country. This is an example of a very nice control room, 43 square meters. This is a 1.2 mil U panel. So this is a water distribution control room for the Shenzhen municipality. So this is a very typical installation. And I say LED is perfect for this. So another example here of an airport control center. So this shows the different type of control room, obviously the curved screens. Again, another opportunity to do a very nice curved screen fairly seamlessly with LED, which is not going to be the case if you try to do that with something like a rear projection cube, because DLP will have much more off-axis color deviation and brightness deviation, so will not look anywhere near as good as this in a curved screen. Another of the key markets that we're seeing the development in the investments in post-COVID is the meeting room market. Again, a diverse market. I'm not just talking about corporate meeting rooms and boardrooms, but also auditoriums, conference centers, event spaces, what are now called town halls, and in the education market, classrooms. So these are all markets that are investing in LED for their meeting spaces. Again, if you look at this, the sector of this market here, there's another analysis by TrendForce here, where they're seeing that more and more corporate conference rooms and meeting rooms and training institutions are looking at LED, looking at the advantages in LED. Again, looking at where the investments have been, by far the largest investment has been in the 1.2 to 1.6 millimeter market. In fact, 1.5 millimeter has become the dominant display for meeting rooms. The reason for this being, it's one about size. An HD wall in a 1.5 mil is 135, 136 inches, which is a convenient size. Some of the bigger rooms use multiples of that, a 2 times 2K or a 4 times 2K wall. So that fits into typical offices. The ceiling height is convenient for that, or that room size, that wall size is convenient for the ceiling heights. So we're seeing that. But as the costs decrease further in the smaller pixel pitches, we will begin to see a trend of a gradually increased demand for the sub 1 millimeter pixel pitch market. And don't forget, if we do a 0.79 millimeter wall, which we can supply, that 135 inch becomes a 4K wall in 0.79. So it's only a matter of when prices move to the point where that becomes viable, then the market will move to that technology. So if we look at the how that market is defined, 80 inches and below, and you can probably even at 98 inches and below, are typically going to be LCD panels used in small to medium-sized meeting rooms. In the over 80-inch market, the biggest sector is going between projection and LEDs at the moment. So most of these screens are then 110-inch, 135-inch, or bigger. So again, it's either large screen projection or LED, because tile video walls are still possible, but they're now less interesting for many companies. So as the pricing of the continues to decrease, there is a reduction in the demand for projection, because everybody sees projection as being the budget option. But if the costs of other technologies become more affordable, then people move away from projection. So the forecasts here are saying that the projection market will decline in meeting rooms from $6 billion in 2019 to just over $3 billion in 2024. So that's a very fast decline. The most popular pixel pitch, as I said, was 1.5 mil today. And we estimate that there will be 192,000 sets of 135, 136 inch screens required in 2024. That's a huge increase. That's the massive growth, going up from what's estimated to have been 35,000 screens in 2020 to 192,000 screens in 4 years later is a massive growth. So there are a whole new range of products called smart displays, which we are looking at in this area. So if you look at this little graph here, the graph on the left shows you the sort of the price moves. If you look at the green curve there on the left, that's the projection cost. The projection cost decreasing between now and 2024, but decreasing in a very modest way, effectively going from around $12,000 to maybe $9,000 over a 5-year period. Whereas you see the LED sector for a 2K wall, depending upon the pixel pitch, they're in the region of 35,000 to 15,000. So they're very much in the window of projection. So the projection price is for 100 to 120 inch. If you were going for a bigger screen and projection, you'd need either double stack projectors or a significantly more expensive, brighter projector. So this whole sector is making it more affordable. It's estimated that the price difference is about 1.8 times. And that makes it very convenient, a very easy switch for most companies. Most companies, again, according to the surveys we've seen, consider a price difference of up to 2 times to be acceptable to switch from a projection display to an LED display, with the higher performance, the longer life, the lower running costs. So again, this is the LED replacement products will usher in a new growth period. On the right-hand side, it's a slightly more complicated graph, because you have the cost of that same 100-inch, 120-inch projector, which is there, but then you are comparing that with a much bigger 165-inch 4K wall, which is effectively at least double the size. So it's an unfair comparison as well. But that's a 4K wall. So there's still, if you want 4K, there's still a significant price difference. So the market at the moment is still more in the 2K walls or multiples of 2K than it is in the bigger 4K walls for meeting rooms. But that's that in the premium meeting rooms, they can justify the 4K wall there, and we'll see that that growth in that area as well. Again, we mentioned, or I mentioned, smart conference rooms. This has been a significant demand for the all-in-one LED displays, able to sort of fulfill a 2K smart meeting room requirement. Again, price points. Typically, you're looking at three sizes: 110 inch, 135 inch, or 136 inch, somewhere around that, and 160, 165 inch. So that'll be a 1.2 mil, a 1.5 mil, or a 1.9 mil pixel pitch for those. So those products are there now, but we will see, we don't really see 1 millimeter or less displays in smart meeting rooms today, but that will happen. There will be products in smart meeting rooms with smaller pixel pitches as the pricing moves down and becomes more affordable. So this is seeing a sharp increase in the market for this technology. Some examples here. This is the IVA Institute, the Swedish Academy of Science, with where the Nobel Prize meetings happen. So this is a uPanel S 1.5, and both of these screens are uPanel S 1.5, in fact. Here we've got a 1.9 mil wall in the United Nations Economic Council. Again, 1.9 millimeter being perfect for a bigger auditorium with a larger viewing distance or longer viewing distance. So another major growth area is XR studios. One of the things that happened in 2020 with the pandemic was that people couldn't travel. So studios, people had to socially distance, and studios couldn't move to other locations. So there was the development of XR, extended reality. So there's various types of XR, immersive studios and extended reality studios. So these are basically replacing so-called what would be green screens with real, VisiVig. What you see is what you get, playback screens. The immersive screens basically put a high-res LED screen behind the presenter, so that instead of having a real studio backdrop there, a set. So there are cost benefits of this, and speed benefits, and also flexibility. XR takes that one stage further and actually has the ability to extend the set both to the side, above, beyond, and in front of the host. So you can have a fairly small LED set, but you can have what looks to be a massive studio there. With a lot of flexibility. So the growth has been dramatic in XR studios. They've also been used in immersive entertainment. So this whole immersive entertainment thing has really been seeing a rapid development. There's a whole industry that's grown up in various things there, from the films, for bars and restaurants, interactive museums, experiential marketing, theatrical work, themed attractions, festivals, exhibition work. So all of these are new developments and new markets that have come about from this virtual reality immersive entertainment business. So, and LED is at the forefront of this, because LED makes all of this possible, because LED is the piece of paper that the image is portrayed on. So we're seeing opportunities here in education and training, in the tourist market, in the retail market. We're seeing the performing arts, say theme parks, museums, and we're seeing new areas of esports and e-games coming up. So this is a major new market segment. In the past 5 years, there has been a growth rate of about 20% annually, and about 700 new immersive project creations just in the North America. So this is a major, major new business. And Unilumin is at the forefront of this with a lot of references as well. It's a couple of examples here. This is a couple of examples using UNANO. You'll see you've got a corner piece there for LED walls, a right angle corner. This is UNANO, and also an LED floor. So those floors have typically glass, polycarbonate, or a coating on surface covering so they can be stood up on. You can also drive vehicles on them, and they're pretty rugged, and they can be cleaned and maintained easily. Another example here in a virtual event studio. Again, the same sort of thing. You start off with what is in reality a fairly small set, but basically the immersive technology will simulate a much bigger backdrop than that when this is broadcast. Let's move to another area. We're in the movie business now, looking at LED in movie screens. One of the obvious areas is home theater. One of the markets that's seen significant growth in the last year or more has been LED screens in the consumer market, or I should say the luxury consumer market. So we're seeing the content development from Netflix, HBO, all of those sort of platforms offering very high quality Ultra HD, 4K and HDR programming with the right Dolby 5.1 and Dolby Atmos sound. So people are looking for high-end screens to do this. So they were been buying bigger and bigger LCD screens. Then they started buying projectors. But for those that can afford it, an LED screen is the result of what they really want. And in reality, it doesn't have to be a 4K screen. An HD screen will provide the right effect for most, because these are used in large rooms. So people are not standing or sitting that close to these screens. So we're seeing a lot of demand for things like the 135-inch, 160-inch screens there in home environments. We're seeing 1.2 put in there as well. And in some instances, you're seeing 0.9 mil being put in there. But this market is developing, and it's the super rich that's driving this market. And if you look at where the billionaires live, the billionaires can afford to drop £500,000 on a home theatre, or £1 million on a home theatre. So that's not a problem. They probably can spend that much on the audio system, let alone the video system. So if you look at the market, the high net worth individuals are concentrated in the big cities of the world, the big developed markets of the world: London, New York, San Francisco, Moscow, Beijing, Hong Kong, Singapore, etc., Mumbai, Shenzhen. So that's where the business is. But every major capital in the world has plenty of high net worth individuals that can afford to invest in this. And it is a growing market there. It's most effective to explore strategic alliances with other audiovisual suppliers in terms of audio, in terms of other types of display technology, processing systems to help develop this market. And this is not just home theater. This is also in super yachts and other types of locations where high net worth individuals spend their time. Now, the next market is what is called the exhibition cinema market. The exhibition cinema market is where you go into a cinema to see the screen, not home theater, but the real cinema. This market had a sort of a transition to digital going back in 2006, 2007, and I was involved in that at the time. And that saw a huge development of digital cinemas, moving from analog to digital. It started the DCI being the Digital Cinema Initiative, standardization, also things like virtual print fees, which allowed people to have digital copies of the screen, and cinemas being paid basically per seat. That market really went very quickly, and in 5 years, the whole cinema industry in the West transitioned to that. That was then followed by the emerging markets digitization, and then by China's new builds as the Chinese market really developed. So that was wave number 2. Wave number 3 or so, it was really a move from lamps to laser-based projection, but now we are in this replacement market where LED becomes a viable option. And the thing is, it doesn't need to be super high resolution LED because the screen sizes are very big. In a 16-meter wide screen, the 4K image is a 4mm pixel pitch. And if you're 16 meters wide, the screen, you will be sitting far enough from the audience that you will not notice that the pixel pitch is 4mm and not 1mm. So it becomes cost effective and offers a lot more benefits than laser and video projection does in this business. We have higher contrast, we have higher refresh rates. We basically we have a longer life, and we are the first, as Unilumin, that is, we are the first Chinese company to be DCI certified. So the only one in the Chinese LED industry to be DCI certified as well. So that is a unique solution that we have there. So there's a lot of opportunities there. We're looking at this, and this is what effectively will be called the premium cinema solutions. There will be a number of cinemas that will take these premium LED screens. This will still be more expensive than a laser projection screen, but these will be the super premium ones that offer the exceptional image quality, the reduced operating costs. There'll also be screens that can be used for larger immersive storytelling. We'll see panorama format, you'll see surround sound, or surround video, I should say. You'll also see the story moving into the lobby becoming an revenue generating space. So for advertising, for information, as audiences tune into what's happening in the lobby to plan their next visits. And then immersive audio is the next stage. We're not really involved in that side, but all of this is being helping to develop the new super premium cinemas experiences. So the market by 2023, that red curve there is where we expect the growth of the super premium cinemas. And that is where we are looking at. Now, there will be about a total of 200,000 new cinema screens by 2023. And it's estimated there will be one high-end screen or premium screen for every 8 screens. So that's 25,000 to 35,000 displays of LED cinema that's there or potentially there. So again, this is a different market. It has other requirements than the rest of the AV market, but it's a market that we need partnerships in, because there's the companies that know the route to market, that know the channel. We must stabilize the industry, standardize the industry and solutions, but develop the market as fast as possible, because it is going to be an extremely large market. There's the example of the Unilumin product, the UC-A41 DCI certified digital cinema LED display, 16.38 meters wide by 8.64 meters high, 4K resolution, 4096 by that's 4K digital, 4096 by 2160, and 4.0 millimeter pixel pitch. So that's the product. So that is the new solution. The next here is mini LED. Talk a little bit about that. Mini LED and micro LED. There's confusing the market. Really, they're pretty similar technology. The difference really is to do with the chip size. Anything less than about 30 microns is called micro LED. Anything between 30 and 100 microns is called mini LED. So micro LED was really developed for the sort of small display market, but people are looking at it for the large display market as well. But mini LED was developed specifically for the large format display market in direct view LED. Now, at the moment, you're looking at mini LED shipments far outweighing micro LED shipments, and that is likely to continue for some time. Growth is very significant, about 115% growth year on year. So it's a massive growth, and it's focusing on the sub 1 millimeter market at the moment. It will probably develop into the slightly wider pixel pitches, but that's where the market is today. Um, and the solutions where these are being used in, they're where you would expect them to be used in, really: security and control rooms, corporate and education, entertainment and cinema. You're not going to see these really in many other applications. These are the ones that have the requirement for the high performance video, high resolution, and immersive entertainment experiences. So we're seeing a sort of a fairly reasonable split on all that. The big ones today are control rooms and security and corporate market, but entertainment is growing significantly there, and we'll see some examples here. There's a 0.9 millimeter large public security center system here in China, and some smaller examples of this one's a creative design company for digital design. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about in the market developments, and thank you for joining. And I would now like to hand over to the next presenter, which is Nedi Nadershahi, who's the Unilumens technical expert, and he's going to talk about flip chip LED technology. Thank you, and over to you, Nedi.